so here we go. How about any corrections or additions to the minutes? Roger, you're usually our best guy on that.
I don't think we have much. I've read it. I
Okay.
don't see anything.
Great. Anyone care to make a motion on that? Or
I'll make a motion. Accept the minutes as written.
Second.
okay, great. All right, so let's go first to what just happened is the September 12th Trail Celebration Month. Roger, you want to describe what happened? Are you good? You good to go this morning? You had enough coffee that you can tell us what happened?
Yeah, we appeared. The township had done, and the borough and the tree council and everybody had done a good job of planting the trees. That was done before we got there, and it looks very nice. It's really changed the whole personality of that lot, which is going to be a real hub lot, I think, to all the trails. We had our brochures, and we had a few people show up, but not many people came to it. So, we did some video, we did some shots and things that we can use, I guess, for future. Judy gave a little talk on camera. I'm not sure where that's going to be used yet, but we did our thing, but we didn't have, and I think there was something like, Stephanie, was there like 700 people on social media or something? It indicated an interest. And so we were expecting, if we could have gotten 10% of those people, it would have been a nice hit. If they came, we hung around for quite a while, and then we didn't see anybody coming after 45 minutes or so. If they showed up later, then it was a self-guided thing anyway. But unfortunately, PennDOT didn't let us put out any tables, so we didn't have a place to leave brochures. So there wasn't anything to leave our material on. So.
Do you want to comment on the brochure? I mean, I know that there was work done by you, Larry, Judy, and I, just trying to make some corrections. Andrea did a great job, but a couple of things that we found that going forward, if this were to come again, that we would have a map or something on the website that also would direct people to the trail, to the routes that they could take from the trail. So a couple of the things that we suggested, which you did put in to the brochure, which was great, were that each location trailhead had actually an identification for it, had a direction, street address, so that if they were to Waze it from home, finding where these locations were to start a trail, that they could Waze it and find it on their iPhone. But one of the things that we found that we weren't able to do on the map, which certainly space was a problem on that as well, but that we'd like to going forward, kind of do something almost like this loop trail, but in a different format. See that? Remember this that Liz had printed out for us? It was the loops that are there in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware River. And one is an 18.9 mile round trip, another's 7.3. But anyway, Roger and Larry, Judy, and I thought how great it would be if we did something and we would break this up into groups. There's so many trails opportunities that, for example, if we were at the trail the other night at the parking area, I forget what it's called now. What is it? Where are we? Pools Corner. That we would be able to say from there, it's 1 mile into town. It's half a mile to the pump track. It's 2 miles to Fawn Hill, where you would connect to the other trail. Kind of take people, maybe give them 4 or 5 trail options from each trail head. So Judy, do you want to explain a little bit our thoughts on going forward on that?
Well, we were talking about, being able to, orient people, and the brochure starts to do that, but there's a lot of problems with the map and just being able to read it well. And, the biggest thing that we were finding, like Lynn said, was, getting people started, and that orientation of giving an address for the trailheads helps a lot. And I used it, because I was, riding around town, and it was there. And I just wanted to add about the event. there were a lot of bicycles out that day. There were a lot of people doing it. So even though they didn't come to Pools Corner at the time we were there were people all over the place riding because it was an absolutely gorgeous day. So I don't think it was a total flop. It actually, you know, people were out and they were enjoying the trails. And I kept running into people that were asking me, how do we get to here? How do we get to there? Because I got stopped about 4 or 5 times on my way around town. So it was good.
And Judy, you had indicated, I think, too, that when you rode from your house over to Pools Corner,
Yeah.
you were trying to find roads that didn't have hills and things like that. So you were trying to go by the map, but you had trouble finding things on the map because you couldn't read the streets.
I did. I mean, one of the things that we talked about, you know, was letting people know the degree of incline or difficulty of a certain trail, whether it's on the road, whether it's off-road, whether it's a cinder trail or something else. And, you know, just giving people that information helps. And, you know, like Roger said, I was trying to find my way, you know, to Pools Corner without going over the Almshouse Hill, you know, which wasn't a problem. I could do it, and it was, you know, all trails, but it wasn't very easy to read. And I was thinking, well, if I know my way around, you know, and it's hard for me, I wonder what other people are going through. So I was thinking
maybe the idea would be if Larry and Roger and you are still up for it, and anyone else who'd like to join our little gang of 4, that we're going to start with, you know, Pools Corner, and come up with the perfect plan that we could put on the web. I don't know. Am I still on? Judy, you're frozen.
You're
on my
on.
screen.
You're on.
Okay. Judy, you're frozen for some reason on my screen.
Oh.
But that we would come up with using one trailhead and try to come up with our perfect dream of a map that would go on the web. Because I'm imagining that, you know, we're not going to have an opportunity for a brochure for a while. And this would be something, though, that if someone were at home and looking, they'd be able to say, you know, let's park here. This looks like a good one. One of the other things we thought that would be nice on a map would be to say picnic tables, water,
Right.
Bike repair, so that we would have other things listed on our bike and hike map that we wouldn't have an opportunity to put on the brochure. So Larry, Roger, Judy, you guys okay with going forward with that? And anyone else who wants to jump in and help?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we talked about was the graphics of the map itself and exploring, you know, I mean, getting this information onto the website is a little bit easier, but the graphics of the map itself are still hard to read. And I think, you know, we're at a point where we should really be looking forward into budgeting something for, you know, redoing the graphics of the map, because that's going to take a professional to pull that together so that it's linked in with all the systems that it has to tie into. I think it's time to start getting some proposals, find out what kind of money we're talking about, and figure out how do we get there. You know, start planning for it.
Yeah, and Judy, I think a couple of, you talk about, there's a couple places locally that might be able to help on those graphics.
Yeah, there's 2 local people that I know of, and I thought, you know, the next step is to reach out to some other, you know, local people that have done a good job and see who they've used, you know. But I think we could keep it fairly local, but I think we're at a point where we're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah. And
Stephanie, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's fine. You know, look at the Park and Rec, look at our website, but go to Park and Recreation, because we've added the map, we've added a section specifically for trails. So we have the bike hike section of our website, and then we have the trails section on Park and Rec. And we started with just a few of those locations and everything. So, you know, I think you're right. The mapping is probably the most difficult, because it's got to be in a format that we can, once created, easily make adjustments, things like that. So you're not constantly paying somebody to update it.
Right.
But, you know, our resources are limited in that regard. And, you know, we've been able to tweak a little bit what we had put together years and years ago. But, you know, and you want to be careful that it's not too cluttered and people can actually see, you know, see things on the map.
Well, they have to be able to zoom in better. The problem with the map that we have, trying to zoom in on it, it just gets blurry. It's not, it doesn't work as well as, I mean, it's not as interactive as it could be. And that,
Because I think it's
Well-
I think it may be like a JAS PDF that has been used that way. So
Right.
it needs to be different, you
yeah,
know.
it needs a different
And you guys
format
have money in
somehow.
your account. You have some money in your account. So, you know, that, you know, I think is something, but I think getting some proposals is probably the best way to go.
Yeah, I'd like to get some proposals so that, you know, when they're working on the budget for next year, we can say, this is something that we want to accomplish and this is how much money we're going to need. You know, we've never really done that. We've never really put together, you know, saying that this is, you know, money in the budget. So, you know, I think
So-
it's time.
Judy, yeah. Do you want to meet again with the four of us and try to pick out some names? Like I think of Paul Boger, who's the son of Brian Boger, because, and of course, Brian Boger has the bike shop, so Paul Boger is very conscious of bike riding and awareness, trail riding. I don't think he rides a bike, to tell you the truth. I think just his dad is the big rider. But anyway, and his wife runs Doylestown borough events and all that. So they're very conscious of what's happening in the community. Maybe he should be our first shot and try to clarify it and tighten it up on, you know, why talking to him, and then be able to put it out there to others. What's your
You
thought
mean
on
to
that?
write up a proposal?
Yeah.
Does he
Oh,
do
okay.
mapping though? Lynn, I think Judy's getting at is that you really
Yeah.
need somebody who does mapping.
We need a mapping
And does it
graphic
professionally.
designer.
I mean, this has to be GIS level. It
Right.
has to be GIS.
It
you know?
has to tie into the
And
circuit
it has to tie
maps
into
and-
what software that we have.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe that, Judy, maybe Tom Kelso would be the one too to talk to with that, to get a couple names.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's two people locally that do that kind of work and have done it for other communities that tie into like the circuit mapping and all the rest of it. They know the language. Unfortunately, I don't. But I would start with them and see if there's anything else. And then there was another company that I looked up that does this as well. They're in New York. They're not as local, but they do exactly the kind of things. I was looking at their website and the kind of, you know, they link into the other things. They have an interactive map that does the same thing. If you look at an area, then it gives you a description, it gives you a degree of difficulty. I mean, they're used to doing bike trail maps and they know how to do it.
That
And
would
I
be
think-
the holy grail, I think, if it could be interactive, if folks
Yeah.
could click on, you know.
You
the
click on an
range-
area and then you can zoom in on where it is and it tells
print
you. Yeah, it tells you where the hills are, what the surface is, the distances, all that kind of thing. And it's really very, you know, really helpful. And I think that's where we need to be.
We do
Okay.
have a proposal from Bucks County Planning Commission to do the
Right.
story map. And we asked them to revise it. Haven't heard back from them. I'll check with Paul and see where he is with that, because the idea was to apply for a grant from the Tourist Bureau, Bucks County Tourist Bureau, through the Bike Bucks County, because they won't give a grant to the township. Is that right, Stephanie?
That is correct.
And then try and use that money, because it's a tourist thing too. I mean,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
to some degree. So it's
Yeah.
something they definitely, it's the type of thing they definitely fund.
Well, the one that I was looking at that was done by this New York firm that was so good was actually done for their tourist bureau.
Yeah. And Paul, Bucks County Planning Commission has done the mapping. They've got the surfaces. I don't know if they have the degree of difficulty, but that's something we can talk to them about.
But Tom, their map was only taking a small section of
Well,
our
that
trail
was-
area too. Sort
Right.
of a, yeah.
It was, the idea was to start with one, and I think that's what you were talking about too, Lynn,
Right.
is pick a point, and we picked the point of Central Park because it is someplace people start from. They're used to going.
Well,
to
I'm just fearful of something too big to start. I wanted to start with something easy so that we can.
Well,
refine-
that's what this was. This was just a loop from Central Park through some points of interest through the borough, maybe using the hospital trail and
Yeah, to
doing
Shady
that.
Retreat.
Same idea. I don't think it matters where we start or anything. It's just the idea of getting one out there
At a time, right?
and see how
Okay.
it goes.
So, Tom, you'll check with Paul on that?
I will check with Paul and get that
And-
rolling,
and if
and
you
we'll
don't
get
mind,
that
Steph-
application together.
Yeah, and
And I
Stephanie,
think that's something we can, a logical timeline on this would be to get this done over the winter and have it ready to go for the spring.
Yeah.
be dynamite. Are you kidding? It'd be a
And
dream.
I think that's doable. I
Great.
don't know the timeline on the grants from the
Mm-hmm.
Tourist Bureau, but we'll find that out too. I'll check with them.
I have a question. The big network, the Circuit Trail, do they have good maps? What
No.
are they?
They
No, okay.
limited their maps. They did, and then they pulled back a few years
Okay.
ago. They had everything mapped, and they pulled back to just include the circuit trails,
Okay.
which in this area is just the 202 Parkway. And
Yeah.
Here's
Michigan
another
Union.
question. What about DVRPC?
well,
I mean, I know that's kind of related to the circuit, but I'm just wondering, you
that
know,
is the circuit. That's
yeah,
the same
so they're
thing,
not gonna, okay,
basically.
because that was my thought, you know, we checked
Yeah.
with DVRPC.
And that's what I was hoping for a few years ago, and they just decided to pull back.
Mhm.
Well,
That's
let's
the
hope
good
the
thing
Forest-
about the county is it covers areas beyond our township and the borough. It'll cover
Yeah,
the whole county, obviously, but so I think there's a lot of potential there for,
mhm.
and they have a pretty good database when you actually go in and start using it.
Mhm.
And it's compatible with what the township has.
So where is that?
Where
can you
is
look? Yeah. Is it
That's
on
what
their
I need to call
website?
Paul about. And
Yeah,
They
they have
prepared
stuff
a
on their
proposal.
website, yeah.
They
But
gave
it
us a
is on their
presentation
website?
on what they have
Yeah.
in their database, which looked
Mhm.
pretty close to exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
They
then-
Maybe
did
we
it
should
at the
show
Mike
up.
Pike meeting.
Where would we find that if we were looking on the web anywhere?
Yeah, you go into the county website and
Okay.
go down into the planning commission and maps or whatever they have it listed. It's not real hard to find.
Okay.
But
It's
they're not
limited,
finished
though.
with it countywide yet. They're not finished
Right.
with it
Limited.
Just to get an idea
in
then.
this area. And
Great.
the idea was to get them to finish it for a specific area, work up the story map, and then put it online.
Great.
And link it through the township and the boroughs. And
So Stephanie, could you add that to our agenda every month then, so that we can remind ourselves to stay on that?
Sure, like mapping project.
I think.
yeah,
I
listed
think
as the story map.
Story
Yeah.
map, I like that. That
I
right? I think that's a good description, story
Yeah,
map.
that was Stephanie's idea. I think when we met with the county, Stephanie had looked at some other ones in different areas, I think down in Virginia and
Yep.
some
Mhm.
that looked pretty successful. And the idea was that it brings in not just the trail, but the surroundings for the trail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I like the idea of what each location offers too. If you're riding there, you're going to see a play set or a basketball court too. I love the idea of describing what's actually there.
Yeah, I think
So,
there's a lot to see on our trails.
Mhm.
right. All right, well, Tom, we'll leave that to you then. If you need any help, reach out to us and the party of four.
Yeah.
I'll try and get an update before the next meeting and see if we can get the application together.
Hey,
Correct.
Tom,
And-
it's probably incorporated into it, but you know, the current map, like the one we use for the brochure, the trails are based on the streets, and some of the streets are not correct on there.
Well,
Like where it shows East Street and East Road as being one straightforward intersection. That hasn't been that way in 20 years. Doesn't incorporate the new intersection with
I
the way 202 and everything comes together now, and stoplight at East Road and all that stuff.
Roger, while you're on, remind me too that there was something that was missing on the township website that you wanted me to, something with biking on the website. You sent a note.
Trying to
Okay.
think what that was.
That's-
Pools
I'll look at
Corner
that.
never made it onto the map. And we kept talking about Pools Corner.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's
We couldn't
not
get
there.
Pools Corner on the map where we were at Pools Corner.
Yeah,
We're in kind of a standoff because the map doesn't, show the current alignment. So if you were to try to
Right.
direct people, I don't know how we would do that. So.
yeah. I mean,
You have
that's
to go back to the
another
base
reason it
map.
has to be-
See, that's the whole problem. You got to go back to the base map and
We
fix
do.
it in the base map. And
Yeah.
I don't have staff that have the education to fix the base map.
No, that's
then
what,
I need
that's
to
why
send
we
out.
need to hire somebody.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, Plan B.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so
But-
I think we'll move on now at this point to the see what's happening, Steve, with the 202 trail feasibility study. You were thinking about scheduling a public meeting on that?
Yes, yes. So we still have some work to do internally, but that's kind of the next big push is to organize a public meeting.
Okay.
It's kind of
Too early. Okay.
what's that?
Too early to do that yet.
I think we need to start scheduling it now.
Okay.
Because I think it's going to take a little bit of time to advertise and get our ducks in a row in terms of a presentation and our maps and things like that. But we are advancing it internally, and I think I just wanted to have like a brief discussion with you guys today on, I guess, the scope of the project and just see if you guys had any input on where to go before this public meeting, and also sort of like formats on how we're going to present this information. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. Oh, the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, no, I know. Hang on a second. I gotta find, yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Steve, when you say public meeting, are you saying like Zoom or actual in person?
Now we'll have to do Zoom. There are different options that I'm throwing around right now internally, but it looks like the best option at this point, just in terms of the size of our project, the scope, it just looks like a typical, Zoom meeting with a presentation and some distributed email, questionnaires and polls would be the best approach. There are different, more, I guess, robust ways that people are holding public meetings these days. However, I guess my company wasn't far enough along the process in order to have what I call like a cut and paste, program where I was able to take an existing project, copy all of the 202 study information into that, and then have like a successful public meeting. As of right now, we are doing other projects, but they are much larger. And I talked to the IT staff, and they said it's going to require quite a bit of work just to reimagine those, virtual worlds to what we want to utilize it for. So we're not quite there yet. And what I'm talking about in terms of like a robust thing is like, you're popping into a virtual room, you're able to scroll your wheel around the room and see different virtual boards and, type in your comments like right there and have it all sort of hosted by one website. But I do think that we can be very effective. We do have some like internal webinars going around right now of how to be effective with a Zoom meeting and pamphlets and a presentation. So,
And Steve, we have Zoom webinar, just Zoom, in addition to Zoom. We've not used it, but I did download Zoom webinar as well. So
I think
which
the
is a
main,
little different, you know,
think-
which is more like a, you know, a little different than this setup,
okay,
you know, because I think what happens is that you don't necessarily see the participants. It's a little bit more controlled. So you as the speaker and anyone else, like you and Lynn, say you and Lynn were speakers, then people would see you, they would see your presentation. There's a chat feature where they could chat in and stuff like that. I've been on a couple that PSATs has done. So, you know, we can, you know, practice that a little bit, and that may be the better way to set the meeting up, is use
That's
Zoom
pretty
webinar.
easy to use too. I've done that as well. And they have, you can type in your questions, you know, and
Yeah. Have you set it up or have you attended?
I've attended.
Yeah, me too.
You can't walk around the room, but I mean, it just, you know, it
But
was
he
pretty
could
good.
show, yeah, but I think from his standpoint, he would be the speaker, but you're not going to have everybody, all the participants. They're going to be muted. They're going to be viewing the presentation. I think it may be the better way to use Zoom.
And they send you typed questions
Yes.
as opposed to voices.
right.
Yes.
Is there a polling feature, do you know?
I have no
There
idea.
might be.
I can look into that, because that's from a participant standpoint, that's the best way I think to be engaged, is to every once in a while pop a poll up in front of their screen, and it's interactive and they can kind of vote to
Oh,
see where things are going.
That's good.
Yeah, and I know some platforms have that and some do not. So that's just something that we can look into.
What's our target audience going to be here? Is this a little different than other ones we've done? From the standpoint, we're not going through a specific neighborhood or something, and Stephanie's been great about, you know, setting it up and inviting specific groups, and we've had great turnouts. I'm a little
Yeah, Tom, we
interested
skirt
in
a number of neighborhoods. I think we're
I
going to
was
need to
gonna
invite
say.
them.
yeah.
We don't really go
There's-
through them, but we skirt them. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So Tom, I would agree. I think we're going to need to figure that out.
Yeah, and
And
that'll
where to-
sort of dictate what we do
Yeah.
too, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
because there's a lot of neighbors that, you know, this is their access point.
Or will be. Yeah.
Yeah, will be.
Yeah, I love it. I love the plan.
Oh,
I love
thank
that
you.
one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
So, Tom, I think you bring up a good point, though, because I mean, it is a much, I guess, larger connection to the 202 Parkway, and this is going to be a more, you know, regional trail. But we
Yeah.
are skirting people's neighborhood. But I think that's one of the other reasons why a presentation like Zoom is more fitting. You know, I think like the Turk Road study, for example, we had people literally like draw in where they wanted the trail and have a very interactive setting. Whereas there's not many options here. We're basically looking at the north or the south side of 202,
Right.
and combinations there within. So whether we're using this, you know, connector along Easton Road or not, you know, it's big chunks. They're
Yeah.
not so much little intricacies. So
The road's already there.
what's that?
And the road is already there. There's,
Yeah.
Right.
so,
Yeah, exactly. There's no realigning that.
Hey,
That's
Steve,
Yes.
Steve, could you explain the map a little bit? Because it's kind of small on my computer. I've
Sure.
got the
You can-
solid purple line, I've got the dotted purple line. Kind of guide us a little bit about what that means?
Sure, absolutely. So the study starts on the left side of the screen here, at this trailhead parking. And basically the goal is to get to the Pools Corner, which was just mentioned, which I actually had to update the base map as well here to show this new construction. I'll zoom in here for a bit. But this obviously was all just redesigned, so
Mhm.
that had to get updated. The exterior boundary is our study limits. let me come back to the other side here. Okay. So again, we have the starting point over here and the ending point on Pools Corner. As I mentioned, we have a north option and a south option with really one connector piece that we're able to kind of switch sides. And all of these have been walked. I didn't walk along 202 Parkway, but I did get as close as possible to kind of see the opportunities and the constraints here. And so far, you know, this southern side here seems to lend itself very well to a proposed trail. We have New Britain Road that has some space in between the right-of-way fence of 611.
A lot of space, actually.
Yeah.
And it looks nice. It looks really nice back there. It touches this neighborhood, which could provide, again, good access to the overall trail. This intersection is a bit weird in terms of striping, signing, sight distance, I noticed. People that live there are very used to that intersection, but me maybe not driving it as much. It just
Dangerous.
seemed a little dangerous.
Yeah.
It's a little hairy, yeah.
It could benefit from a all-way stop too.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, I don't
people
know how
do come through there. I use it a lot on my
Yeah.
bike.
Yeah,
And
me too.
The map's gonna shrink a little bit really quick. Sorry about that. I'm gonna open up another program so I can write our notes down. Okay, we're back.
Right there at that sharp corner is also where a lot of trails jump off into Central Park. So
Yeah.
that's very
Right.
handy, thinking
Yeah.
about what that alignment gets you.
Yeah.
So then there's actually, my line doesn't quite follow, but there's an existing trail back here that runs up to Warden Road. It's a 4 to 6 foot trail, probably 6 feet. And it kind of juts up this, you can see it in gray here. It kind of juts up and goes around to this cul-de-sac here. So my idea was to basically come up here and widen that trail before tucking back into the woods of 202 back this way. So again, we're going to be abutting some properties here. They're definitely going to have to be involved in the conversation. Trying to stay as far into 202 right away as possible, as to not raise any concerns there. And then we kind of come up to Easton Road here. There's a lot going on here. There's the Wawa development. There is, it comes up this ramp and we're now at a much higher grade than we were down here. So I think no matter which side we choose, whether we continue on the south side or the north side, there's definitely going to have to be some intersection improvements. Whether that's I think there's a signal on this side, but whether there's a rapid flashing beacon or just, ahead signs where we want to signalize where it's not signalized, it's definitely going to have to be looked into because we're going to introduce a new crossing there.
Steve, I would suggest you stay on the other side because Steeple, we're doing the trail, which Baker's doing for us with the borough, is the trail from Steeplechase along Main Street. Tonight, the board is going to be looking at accepting the easement from the Bucks County Historical Society, which is going to bring us right along Main Street. So I would want to tie in on that side because also as you go further down, we have trail from Callan and from Tabor.
Yep.
So staying on the west side of that, makes more sense in my mind.
Okay,
and then,
great.
Because there's going to be a traffic light on the other side and you're going to be able to cross over to the new Wawa. So that, to me, the blue line needs to shift to the other side.
Right.
Okay, great. And then we kind of have, two more options. On the south side here, we're abutting more neighborhoods, whereas the north side, Once we reach a certain point, we're basically back to dealing with, Doylestown Golf Course, which may be, I don't want to say easier, but it's just less property impacts.
I think the
potentially.
country club will give you a rough time.
You're not
I-
kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
We're
how much
we're
do we
not
take
talking
in?
about going on their property, though.
No.
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 We're still in the right of way, right?
Mhm.
We're still going to be within 202 right away, but we
Right.
are.
That's
we-
where, like, go ahead. Everybody's driving their shots there. It's the back, 2 long drives right there. You'll get nailed on your bike. But
Better have a high fence.
Is that me golfing? Is that what you're saying? When I at our one time a year golf outing for the township? Yep, that would be. I always lose my ball along there. So yeah, I don't think I go over the fence though. There's a lot of woods there, so that So I don't know. As long as we're in the
They're
202
not
right away.
hitting cars. Why would they hit the bikes?
Yeah.
Good
how do
point.
you know they're not hitting cars? All right, anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's just write down golf course may give us a hard time.
Golf hazards.
Hazards.
Yeah. Now, do you get off at that point on Green Street or anything? Is there a way to get to town from Green Street?
So good question. This actually brings me to probably the most difficult point of this whole job. If you remember from our Pebble Hill study that these are bridges here.
They're gonna be up.
They're very much vertically separated here. So you're going to be up high. The options are, in my opinion, retaining walls or bike ped structures. And I really don't think retaining walls will work, but I still think that I should do some investigation down that road. But I think we're going to need a new pedestrian bridge scaling across. And when Chris and I were first talking about this job, I threw out a pie in the sky idea. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we had this pedestrian bridge, right, that went into some sort of staircase or, long ramp that connected us back into this Pebble Hill Road down at the bottom. You see it along the Schuylkill River Trail. They have kind of these switchback staircases that have a little divot where you can ride your bike wheels into it. And
They do it at New Hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds amazing to me. I think it's going to be expensive, to say the least. And there may be other options with a long ramp, but that's going to have to be designed with ADA in mind. It's going to have to be pretty long, I think, because of how tall this structure is. But this is sort of the crux of this study here, is how to cross this. And I mean, again, it could just be an expensive pedestrian bridge. It's able to be done, but that's going to be the biggest hurdle.
And you couldn't take off, is that a Doylestown Borough Water Authority to the west side of Green Street? Yeah, right lower, but closer to the route. Yeah, there.
That's the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority plant.
I mean, would it make sense to start a ramp just farther back so that we can ease down to Green Street instead of that would be less expensive?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. And then we got to get back up though.
Well, I'm thinking, two-way or
Yeah, both sides.
down. Yeah, I'm just saying, you get, one guy
yeah.
has it easy, one guy has it hard.
So continue the pedestrian bridge idea, but have the access slope down here. I like that idea.
Just less expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the pedestrian bridge becomes more expensive than doing a ramp both sides. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking if you did the general ramp on both sides where it makes its way down to street level, then you wouldn't need the bridge.
Right.
So I think that would be in numbers, whatever seems the least expensive.
Yeah, so that's my retaining wall option here, because I really think that the impacts of the slope is just going to be massive. So in order to not have these massive cut slopes, you would input a retaining wall there. Again, I have to look into that, but we either go up or we go down.
Okay.
Okay. So to be determined there. And then again, we're just kind of finishing off here at Pools Corner. East Road, we're going to go underneath. I don't know if I have the map open really quick, but I can head over to East Road and I can show you. We brought this up at our meeting with PennDOT, and it seemed feasible. Not there. Sorry. It seemed feasible to go underneath East Road.
Hmm.
Here we go. So I mean, we have some space. There is ways that you can kind of get up into this area as long as you maintain vertical clearance. But there will have to be, guide rail installation or concrete barrier along 202 to separate the trail.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we click
Well,
along.
why would you necessarily have to do that? You don't have that on the trail on other locations.
Yeah, we do. We have fencing. And the one thing we learned with the parkway fencing is, people were hitting the wooden guide rail or wooden fencing. And so they've changed that all out with those delineators. I think I'd rather see some sort of taller metal guide rail. I think it would be safer and protect the bikers as well.
Yeah.
Maybe more
Jersey
expensive.
barriers, I think, are
Or
just
Jersey
the metal.
barriers would work too.
That's a lot of money there, though. We'll never
I know
get
it
this.
is. I
We'll
know.
never
We're
get it.
gonna
We
have to
have a
come up with
choice.
something. You're
Because you
wide.
don't
You're
want
really
people pulling
exposed
off
there.
the road onto the trail.
Well,
Yeah.
this is also the portion of the road where the speed limit is a lot more than it is in the other part of the 202 we have
Exactly.
now.
Yeah, I mean, people
But
are
we
going to be
need some
going 50,
protection.
60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it's around a
At
subtle
least 50
curve as
miles.
well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So something else to think about, and then we're heading up here to Pools Corner, where we connect into the existing trail network. So that's the project. We can
And there's
talk about it
trees there
further.
now.
There's trees there now,
Yeah, you got to add the trees in. Looks all different.
So we could talk about this in more detail, especially approaching this public meeting. But I think at this point now, we should really start coming up with an idea of when this public meeting is going to be held. I think that October is doable from my side. Stephanie, do you have thoughts on that?
I think you're going to need to be late October, in my opinion. I think we need to pick a day and a time, and I need some information, and we also need, because we're going to have to invite people from the borough too. So I want to make sure John and his he can get a kind of we can get like a letter or something about joining the Zoom, and whether that, we're going to need to mail that out as like a postcard or something like that. I can work with Andrea, we can get creative. Maybe it's a postcard with some of these photos and indicate very briefly that we've received a study grant, and that, we want to invite you to a Zoom webinar. We don't want to be, Zoom bombed, so to speak. So we have to be very careful. I think what I would like is that if they're interested in attending, they need to call us. We get their name and number and give them the link.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to somebody last night who was on a call just recently, and I know 2 colleagues who experienced Zoom bombing. And when someone Zoom bombs, it's very, very, I know 3 situations, and it's very inappropriate. And we do not want
First
that
time
to
I've ever
happen.
heard of the Zoom bombing.
Huh?
First time I've heard of Zoom bombing.
Oh yeah, I
Haven't
mean,
heard.
poor Doylestown Borough was hit with child pornography on Zoom bombing, and
Oh.
Morristown Borough was hit with live pornography. And the person I talked to yesterday was on another type of call and had the same situation. So we have
Wow.
to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, we create some sort of postcard, Steve, you and I can talk offline. But they need to call here and register in a sense. So we have a name and number, and we'll send you an email with the link. Do you know what I mean? Once we set that up in a day and a time.
Okay.
Because the last thing I want is something like that happening.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
You know,
great.
Not
So
that we're going to be able to trace it anyway, but
you'll connect with Stephanie to try to get that started. So I'm going to move on a little bit. Anybody have any questions to Steve? Tom, since it's already 8:48, I'm gonna move along these briefly. If someone has issue with it, just like comment when we're hitting it. Tom, any updates with the Old New Road?
Yes, Stephanie, Paul, Dave and I met on the site, walked it from beginning to end and back again. And I think we've got a fairly good plan for the structural aspects of this. And it was great to walk it because it pointed out the difficult areas. And I think we have a good plan right now. And I'm in the process of working up some cross sections that we're going to supply to, I think Gilmore's doing the plan for the township for curbing and
Yes.
repaving, and get it to them so they can incorporate that into their plan. And then start, meeting with people and talking about a grant for that. And it looks doable. There's some difficult aspects to it. We're going to have to cross the road at some point. But the idea is to narrow down the cartway a little bit. And we're probably looking at an 8-foot trail there, a neighborhood connector type trail.
It'd be well used with the school there. Going to the school, don't you? I think if you get this right, that a
Yeah.
lot of students would use
oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah, it wouldn't stop here. I mean, the idea is if we apply for a grant, we take it all the way to the school.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Working with Warrington Township, which we already have, and have I think a mutual understanding of how we can do that with them. And that would probably be the grant application, is to incorporate that, and maybe something on Warrington side too. I forget exactly, but in front of the school. I think that was the idea, was to connect the school entrance on Bristol in front of those couple homes over to, is it Folly Road there?
Yep.
Holly Road, yeah.
So we might have a trail on both sides at that point.
Tom and Judy and Steve, I guess, too, as well. Does it look like 2021 is going to be bringing in some grants, or with, all the issues with COVID and the difficulties people are having, does it look like grants will really be cut back?
I don't know.
I think they will.
We're
I think they
hoping.
will.
Yeah, we're going to have this big infrastructure program, aren't we?
We should.
Yeah,
Oh,
trillions of dollars
absolutely
trickling
should.
down.
Yeah,
Great.
I think it'll happen.
Get people back to work.
Yes.
FDR will be brought back.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
All right.
we could be working with a WPA program.
Right. That would be fabulous.
Any word
Yeah,
on anything since 2021 is not that far off. I didn't know if you saw an obvious pullback.
Well, I
We
think
can get some of that
the
great
goal is to
WPA
be in
art.
position to actually get applications in and take advantage of something if it does come along.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, this is one we can
Stretch out.
Keep working on
we can do it
ourselves.
piece by piece. So
Yeah, just to be aware that we've got things in the
Gotta
books.
get them on paper, right?
the
Yeah.
idea is to get any easements we need and deal with things like, and that was the advantage of having Paul out there from the township and Dave, is there are probably 4 different pipe crossings there that are going to be dealt with the rehab of Old New Road. And if just those get taken care of as part of the Old New Road project, the repaving and curbing, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think that was the goal, right, Stephanie, is to, Fine.
We'd like to make sure that we have it kind of
Clear.
set, so that as part of the road and paving program with the sewer and water going in, that we can address it and be prepared for the future, So we want to make sure that, it's there when we have the funding to do it.
Good. Okay, so then let's go on to Steve with Neshaminy Greenway, Bristol Upper State Road update. I mean,
Yeah.
you were gonna, should be complete, correct?
It is, the signal poles still need to be completed. The overall construction, we're looking at like 4 to 6 more weeks until it's completely done.
Are people using it right now? Are
What's
people
that?
using it? Are people using it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I have.
You get any more tickets, Tom?
No, they're pretty nice about that. It's great. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm really happy
We
with
did
it.
have,
We
we did have a complaint about the access from the, I guess, the Shell Britt property with the bridge, and Baker's addressing that with Gilmore with signage and stuff.
Yeah.
Little clear sight distance issue there.
Yeah, we went back and double checked our calculations, and although it is like down to the inch, you can see the required, object height from the required, height of your eye, and we can see it. So it's tight, but it's possible. Obviously,
Well, people aren't used to it either.
people aren't
Right,
used
yeah.
to it, right? Exactly.
Mhm.
So we think with additional signs to mitigate that, to make vehicles aware and to make vehicles aware leaving the parking lot.
Yeah.
The other good thing that we can kind of rest our hat on is that there's not gonna be too much in and out traffic there with only like 6 spaces.
Right.
And I think SUVs are completely fine. Modern cars are completely fine. The only thing that you can only see a top of their car is if somebody's driving like a Porsche down there or a really, really low car. But based on all PennDOT requirements, we've met it out there without a concrete barrier railing on it. So that's going to be not installed.
Well, there is right now there's those, blockade signs that kind of block things too. That doesn't help right now.
Okay.
The orange sign that says the bridge is
Oh, the
closed.
construction signs.
Oh, right.
Right. That's kind of in the way right now.
Yeah, so those will go away as well.
Yeah.
So that may help,
Okay.
That'll
'cause
help.
Technically, it's really not open yet, so,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Good. Okay, great. As always, for Roger and my sake, we like to mention Turk Road area feasibility study. If PennDOT got notified or anything, so that we know we're out there.
Yeah,
Steve?
PennDOT's aware of this project. However, we are in a bit of a holding pattern here while we strategize for future funding of these jobs. So as of right now, there's no open funding rounds, but we constantly keep an eye out for that. And if there is one, we'll definitely go after it.
Okay, great. Shady Retreat again, Steve. You should have run the meeting.
A lot of talking today. So Shady Retreat, we're moving things along. Not much to report since last time. We're waiting for our final structure comments from PennDOT, and we're progressing right away. Stephanie, I'm gonna have to follow up with Jeff Garden again. I did talk to him last week regarding the right-of-way of
Mhm.
Stonington Farm. He told me he was going to get back to me within a day, but he never did. So I'll follow up with him. So right-of-way is moving, structures is moving, and then we have a few outstanding comments from the signals unit. We actually met with signals office head at PennDOT, NB Patel, and he came out to the intersection of Lime Kiln and Hospital Road, and he had some preferences there that we're going to address. So things are moving along there.
Just an aside, that's the way I went up to Pools Corner from my way to avoid Hills and went down the Shady Retreat, and there were a lot of people doing the same thing. It was well traveled this past weekend.
Yeah. The shame is that how we go from, I think of Shady Retreat also as a way for me to get to Covered Bridge. I kind of go that way,
Right,
Covered Bridge
right.
Park. But if you take Covered Bridge Park, go up the hill, cross at the light, where I am on Ferry Road,
Yeah.
they paved that road. So
Yeah.
we missed an opportunity there to do anything. You know, the road that would take you to Peace Valley Park from Ferry Road. You know where I am?
Britton
with it?
Township,
Over the
in
hill.
New Britain Township.
Yeah, so I was kind of bummed that we missed an opportunity there to get on board with them to either put some, you know, stripes on the road or something. They did widen the road a little bit. But anyway, so that is something that would have been a nice opportunity to continue that path. Remember how we have talked about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they have right of way there. And I don't
Okay.
think they obtained easements. So it's because it was pretty tight coming through there.
It's very
Yeah.
tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice at least though to have like Doylestown Borough put some markers on the road, just to have the drivers
Or
aware
even
of it.
sharrows or something.
Yeah, to have the driver aware that there could be bicyclists there. Because it really is a nice, that is the only place really with a light for a while where you can cross that road. Okay, PennDOT, which is the, let's see, where are we? We're on Bucks County Trail.
County.
Paul, yeah, I don't know if Paul's on, but I'm sure he's plugging away. The pump track update, you know, Liz is still, it's her baby. She's amazing.
It looks great.
And then if Pine Run cut the grass or not, I don't know, but Stephanie, you were going to alert Pine Run.
I did.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if there's anything else, I appreciate everyone being on this morning. Does anyone take issue with Zoom meetings instead of in person?
No.
I think it seems like an unnecessary, yeah, I mean, you know, it'd be nice when one day we get back to see each other and elbow to elbow, but at this moment, I think we're doing fine with Zoom. Anybody take issue with that?
No. I have a little comment for Steve and Stephanie, though.
Okay.
The folks, you know, Mary and Dave, who have the house next to the cemetery on Alms House, the drainage that was put in across the street to try to mitigate what was going on, it's not working. They had some major flooding. That, you know, granted we had these incredible downpours, but they've had some really major flooding. It brought logs and trees across the street. They were just floating across and ended up in their front yard,
Gosh.
along with a lot of water. And so there was apparently a pipe put in on my side of the road, but apparently it's not working at all. And I don't know if that was actually done or if it was not done, but you know, that has to be looked at again because the flooding is pretty bad. It really is.
Well, that's a Dave Tomko issue. That's not a
Okay.
Steve. I don't need Baker Engineering. That's
Okay.
on the township side. That's just general drainage. So
Okay.
that would need to be
'Cause I don't
addressed
know
with
if it
Dave
just needs
Tomko.
to be cleaned out or what the issue is, but
I don't know. I'll talk to Dave and have him take a look at that.
okay. All right. Because they're ready to sue or something. They're getting really hot and bothered.
One other thing, if the trail on Bristol Road's going to be completed in 4 weeks, should we do a ribbon cutting? I mean, it's a great opportunity to have Chalfont, New Britain Township, and Doylestown Township get together and get the county in too because of the bridge and everything.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great
let
to
me
have the
reach-
county commissioners there.
Yeah, let me reach out to Eileen because that was New Britain Township's project.
Right.
And I'll let her know that's been suggested.
Yeah, I think we need some publicity on that one.
Yeah.
Because
Marketing.
it's a great connector
Yeah.
when it's finally
Just to tie
connected.
everyone together that way.
Yeah.
Mhm. You have
Yeah.
to be social distance, but I think it can be done.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it'll be outdoors.
Yeah, it's outside.
Yeah.
It's a different
Mhm.
I
different
don't think
animal.
it'll be 250, so I think we'll be okay.
And it's still within the weather probably before it gets terrible.
Mhm. Yeah,
Good.
I'll reach out to Eileen and ask her if they're putting something together. And I'll let you know.
Great. Any other business that anyone would like to discuss?
Hey, I'd just like to, we went over the Turk Road and stuff like that, but Is there any progress we can make anywhere along either Cherry or East or get the rubber meets the road on anything at this point?
We need some easements along East. And we don't have the funding. So until it's all about the funding.
Okay, so
So,
there's no sense in going after the easements yet, you're saying?
no, we can start to talk about the easements with the people, but need
Well,
to
the easement could be
finalize it.
free, right? People could
I'm sorry,
be,
what?
the easements don't have to necessarily cost us money, though. That would be
I'm not
nice.
talking
while-
about the paying for the easements, because we've really never had to truly pay, well,
Right.
once or twice, but we've really never paid for the easements, but there's grant money that we don't have to do, a huge project from
Mhm.
all along East Road,
But would it be wise for us to get easements while we have willing people there and a Roger who is willing to talk
Start
to his neighbor?
softening it up a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, you know the properties, so why don't you send them and we can figure out crafting the appropriate language to reach out to them.
I
Okay.
mean, might
Have a
as
meeting
well,
in the field.
yeah, because I think that we've got neighbors who want it right now. Who knows what the next
We can
neighbor
get
would bring.
support. It
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
And that will help with funding, I would think.
And there's starting to be some questions like, hey, what's going on? Neighbors are wondering what's happening. So we need to show some forward movement, I think.
Good. Okay, good comment, Roger. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, anybody else in their neighborhood? Think about your neighborhood. What else do you need? All right, well, thank you, everybody, for showing up. Enjoy fall. I see Tom has actually taken up boating. I saw sailboating or
Yeah.
something. Tom, you're a bike rider. Get it in your head. You're not a boater.
Yeah, no, gotta
We
mix
need
it up a
you
little
riding
bit.
trails. We need you riding trails, not being on a boat. So Larry, have fun in Vermont, and everyone else enjoy
Yeah.
fall, and talk to you next month.
Okay,
Great.
Great,
Okay, so long.
thanks.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for showing up.
Bye.